Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to part 4 of our continuing coverage of Watches and Wonders Geneva 2022. Now the fair is over, but we're not done with the highlights, which we kick off here with watches we didn't actually see much of or won't be going in depth on. I can feel you judging us, but we did see most of these at the relevant booths, even if we couldn't spare the time for them in person, individually. Anyway, the state of our reports grows ever more fraught, and we're dispensing with on-camera presentations. Instead, you get to see more watches instead of seeing me, which I think works out for the best for everyone. Time is simply not on our side here, but it is on the side of Patek Philippe. We do have to report that Patek Philippe has wristwatches on offer for 2022, and one spectacular example of that is an annual calendar 2x watch, reference 5326G, which has something like 8 patents hiding beneath the dial. Now, hearing that and reading the specs, you might think that this is an advanced research piece, but it isn't. What's really amazing about this is that it is virtually impossible to desynchronize the indications, whether you move the hands backwards or forwards. This is basically how Patek Philippe explains it, and we get a little more in depth on it in our story on Luxo.com, and we will also be returning to this watch in the summer issue of World of Watches. Now, calendars are kind of a thing at Watches and Wonders this year. We wouldn't say that they're a trend, but we are going to look at a few. And the next is from Moser Cie, the Endeavour Perpetual Calendar, which is not exactly new for the fair, but it is new for this year, and we just have to give it its due because it has a sense of humor which we love. It literally explains itself on the dial. No need for patents or fancy mechanisms, which are there. Instead, the watchmaker puts the manual on the dial, a play on a sort of joke that Moser Cie CEO Edouard Milan once made. If you know anything about Moser Cie perpetual calendars, you can expect exactly the same here. Staying with the calendar theme, we move on to Jaeger-Le Coultre with the Polaris perpetual calendar, which is entirely on the practical side of things. The Polaris is a tool watch with superlative water resistance, and all the calendar indications here are controlled by a single pusher. We think that desynchronization is not an issue here either, but the manufacturer takes pains to include a safety indicator on the dial, warning not to set the watch between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. Moving on, fairs like Watches and Wonders need a sense of humor. Staying with that theme, the Milan by way of Neuchâtel Panerai, which brings a new perpetual calendar to the game, the Luminor Goldtech Calendario Perpetual Pan 01269. We almost missed this watch until we asked specifically about it. Now, it keeps it simple and even flips the information around to display the month, year, leap year, and power reserve indication on the movement via the caseback. You have to see it to understand the kind of humor that Panerai is going with here, and we absolutely love that. And kind of tweaking our coverage to match yet another calendar watch, this one from IWC, the Big Pilot's Watch Perpetual Calendar Top Gun Seratanium, which is a mouthful and is new-ish. Now that perpetual calendar is the perpetual calendar that everyone knows and loves from IWC. So the real story is the last part of that name, Seratanium, and a partnership with Pantone to develop specific color profiles associated with this material. So all the colors in this range, which for this year is the Pilot's watches, they are all certified by Pantone. The Schaffhausen-based manufacturer is making a real go of creating a sensory experience for this range, with no less than Hans Zimmer creating a soundtrack for the collection. So it's got a little bit of everything, bombast and practicality, as well as a sense of humor, yet again. And that's it for us for part 4, but of course, there are plenty of watches that we have yet to get to, and in fact, we do still have a few more to send your way. So keep an eye on for that.